Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our television and webcast viewers to the program. Welcome and good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Sloan, and I'm president of the Canadian Club of Toronto. The Canadian Club has a long history as the leading current affairs podium in Canada, led by a volunteer board of directors. We are dedicated to encouraging open and accessible debate on issues that matter to Toronto, to the province, and to our country. Through our youth and young leaders programs, diversity partnerships, accessibility commitments, as well as through our media partnerships and social media properties, we provide opportunities for Canadians around the world to engage with leading political, business, and public figures. Thank you for joining our conversation today. Before I formally introduce our speakers, I'd like to tell you about some of our upcoming events this season. On Friday, October 17th, Canada's Minister of Employment and Social Development, the Honourable Jason Kenney, will discuss the Government of Canada's efforts to ensure that Canadians have the skills needed in today's workforce. And on October 20th, CMHC President Evan Siddall, in conversation with the Canadian Bankers Association's Terry Campbell, will discuss how CMHC will help house Canadians and what lies ahead for Canada's Authority on Housing. For a full listing of the club's upcoming events and to order tickets, please visit our website at canadianclub.org. You can also join our conversation via Twitter, where you can follow us at CDN, CLUBTO, or by using that hashtag. I'd like to express special thanks to today's youth and young leaders sponsors, Bell Canada and Julie DiLorenzo. Thanks for your support, and welcome the Monk School of Global Affairs and Havergal College. Ladies and gentlemen, on your behalf, I'm pleased to introduce the mayoral candidates who are participating in today's debate. There are many passionate Torontonians who want a crack at running this city. About 65 of them registered between January and September. Two of the top three frontrunners are here today to discuss the issues that are top of mind for city residents. Mayoral candidate Doug Ford was invited and expected, but formally declined our invitation Friday evening. Transit, jobs, economic revitalization, community safety, property taxes, just to name a few. The issues are plenty, and the views and positions are as different as the candidates themselves. There have been more than 42 debates, whether in religious spaces, media outlets, educational institutions, or here at Canada's podium of record. For all candidates, the premise is the same. The candidates see great potential in this beautiful city and want to make it better. That everyone can agree on. How to make it better? That is debatable. Olivia Chow became a City of Toronto councillor in 1997 and went on to federal politics 9 years later. She represented the riding of Trinity-Spadina until this past March, when she joined the mayoral race. John Tory has worn many hats, including CEO, Commissioner, MPP, leader of the Ontario PC Party, and leader of the official opposition. In 13 days, he hopes to add the title of mayor to that list. Moderating today's debate is award-winning veteran journalist Robert Benzie, Queen's Park Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Mr. Moderator, candidates, welcome to the Canadian Club of Toronto. Our podium, Canada's podium of record, is now yours.
thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you to two of the three leading candidates for the mayoral race that will be decided, of course, 2 weeks today. I guess 2 weeks yesterday. No, 2 weeks today? Anyway.
It's a Monday.
As long as we know. Polls are now open. Advanced polls open today. We know that.
Today is Tuesday.
Just a couple of housekeeping things. I am going to be the moderator, but I'm not the timekeeper, so you can't boo and hiss me for... Alice over here is going to be the timekeeper. The candidates can see the time on big screen TV right there. We're going to have 30 minutes of debate. A lot of things have been decided by coin toss that even I didn't witness, one of which is who goes first. So the first question will go to Mr. Tory, and the closing remarks, Ms. Chow gets first crack at that. And we will have some rapid-fire questions that staff are going to have. If you look on your side plate, we'll need some questions. I want to see some good questions for you. We've got a lot of questions here from Twitter. Some of them aren't very good, go figure, off of Twitter. But some of them are good. I'm going to start things off with the first question, and it's going to be about transportation, which is, of course, a key issue in this campaign. I want to ask Mr. Tory first. What makes you think your plan is doable and viable? And then the same question to Ms. Chow, and you have 1 minute.
And the timekeeper is? I didn't hear you say
Alice
that.
over here is the timekeeper, and
how do we hear from her? Oh.
You'll see
right
lights there.
And
I'll interject. You'll hear me. I'm going to throw a flag just like in football.
I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that my transportation and traffic plan is the best because it starts with taking some aggressive common sense steps to deal with traffic, which I think is at a crisis situation in Toronto. It moves next to dealing with issues of reliability when it comes to the current public transportation system, the experience many have had where you wait 15 minutes for a streetcar or a bus and then 3 come all at once, this kind of sort of fairly basic management task. And then it goes to top priorities, of which the centerpiece of my campaign is Smart Track. Smart Track making greater use, for the most part, of existing GO train tracks to produce all day, every 15-minute electrified, emission-free service citywide, and to get it done in 7 years. And I think the urgency of the situation across the city now is such that we need to do something bold and urgent, and Smart Track, I believe, is that answer. It got an A+ this morning on Metro Morning from one of North America's most renowned transportation experts.
Ms. Chow?
Yes. My transit plan is comprehensive, it's designed by expert, and you can have immediate improvement right now rather than waiting for 10 years. It includes all mode of transportation. It would build the downtown subway relief line starting right now. It will also start the construction on the LRTs, the 3 LRTs that have been already studied for several years now, and that it would have immediate improvement on bus services. Of course, it would work with the provincial government to electrify GO. I will also provide a financial incentive for the developers to finish the construction faster so they don't block the lanes as long by making sure that the longer you block a lane when you're doing your construction, the more you would pay. And that funding would then come and go into a fee that would then improve the lights. It also have a bike plan, so it's comprehensive in all modes of transportation. Bike, pedestrians, car drivers, and public transit.
Thank you, Ms. Chow. You can now debate for 2 minutes.
Well, Mr. Tory, we know that one of the problems with your plan is that the tax incremental financing that you have proven to not work in elsewhere, and that because your plan is not necessarily designed by expert, that the likelihood of it being built within 10 years is very slim. Do you have a plan B? And I haven't seen a plan B, and you said the plan B may not be there.
Well, I'm happy to talk, Olivia, about plan A, because plan A is going to work, because I'm going to have the leadership and the determination to make it work. And let's talk about paying for it. I mean, tax increment financing is actually something that is in use today. For example, building a ring road around the city of Atlanta. It's a big project. It's going to work because I have confidence. I have confidence, and I'm sure many people in this room do as well, that if we've got 2 million people, and nobody disputes that number, including you, I'm sure, 2 million people coming to this part of the world over the next number of years, they have to have a place to live. They have to have a place to work and an office or a building in which to work. And that is the kind of future development that is going to pay for a small part of the incremental revenue from that development to pay for Smart Track. The plan is sound. The determination is there to get it built because we have to in the city. It's urgent.
Well, every expert that I've seen have said that it will not work. It has not worked across North America. It failed. In California, 89% of the tax incremental financing scheme did not work out. In New York, for every dollar that they expect, only 10 cents of it came in. So it's not going to work, and there is no plan B. Also, because it's not designed by experts, right now we don't know how many kilometers it's going to tunnel. It's not clear as to how you're going to do the tracks and all that. Whereas my plan is designed by experts.
Let me just read you the words of an expert speaking on CBC Radio this morning, Eric Miller, and he said some good things about your transit plan, and he said, I think the debate in the city has always been inverted. We start by saying we can't afford to do this instead of saying we need to do it.
Okay, next question.
Those are his words.
You have to listen to the moderator, though, you guys. Sorry. The next question is from Twitter. This is from Megan McIver to all candidates. For Toronto's youth, 1 in 5 risk losing their jobs. And this will go to Olivia first, I guess. How do you plan on addressing our persistently high youth unemployment? We had a lot of questions on Twitter about youth unemployment, so go ahead.
That's a very, very important question because, in fact, 1 out of 5 young people can't find a job, never mind about losing their job. And I have a very concrete plan, which is to ask the companies that do business with the City of Toronto to sign a community benefits agreement that they would hire young people and or train them. This is a program that is endorsed by the provincial government, by Kathleen Wynne, our premier, because they are using the exact same policies at Metrolink. When they are building the crosstown, they're going to be asking companies to sign a community benefits agreement, which means that they will create thousands of jobs. And my plan creates 5,000 jobs. It is concrete and is proven to work. Because if you look at Regent Park, the revitalization, it created at least 600 jobs. So it worked before, worked in Toronto, worked in Vancouver, and let's make it across the city so we can provide hope for our young people.
Thanks, Ms. Chow. Mr. Tory?
I think that the key to resolving this issue is going to be partnerships, and I think it is crucially important that it involve partnerships with the private sector. I start by taking the city's most successful youth employment program that is currently a success, but it's not big enough. And why isn't it big enough? Because we don't have enough businesses, small, medium, and large, engaged in providing opportunities for young people. And I have committed to doubling the number of companies involved in that program in my first year in office, which will substantially increase in the hundreds the number of opportunities for young people in the hundreds each year. But then I move on to saying that what we have to do to really address the problem of youth unemployment in a permanent way with real, lasting, productive jobs is to work at attracting, first of all, making it attractive for people who are already in business here to expand, and attracting new companies. They're going to come here from the world over to create good, lasting, permanent jobs. And I think that when you look at that, my program includes something called a One Toronto Jobs program, which talks of creating a high technology corridor north from Canada's first all-digital hospital in North York, and a similar one around the Scarborough subway. Real lasting jobs.
Okay, Mr. Tory, debate time.
Well, Mr. Tory, I have not told you how much it will cost to lower the property tax in and around Scarborough, because it's one of his plan. And yes, we do need to lower property tax of the businesses, but we do that with the existing program. You don't make a grand promise by saying that we will lower the property taxes in the Scarborough area without saying how much it will cost. And I think it's important that we work together to go to the province of Ontario to say that the education tax, which is the property tax portion that goes to the province, that goes to education, is far too high. The tax rate is too high for the small businesses. We need to lower that tax rate, and we can go and do that. But, Mr. Tory, tell us how much it will cost it to lower the property tax in Scarborough.
I could tell you that if I knew how many companies were going to come to locate in advance in the high-tech corridors that I plan to create. But let me make one thing clear to you. I intend to go out and get those people and use the tax tools the city presently has in place to attract those companies and those jobs, including people from around the world, because those are the kinds of jobs we need. If I thought there was some magic wand that government could wave to say youth employment is going to be done away with tomorrow, as apparently you do, then I would wave that wand. But I think, in fact, what we need is to have the confidence of people here that are already in business and the confidence of people who are coming from around the world, and government has a role to play in that. I talked about the Pay Youth Program and I talked about creating the environment, but in the end, those are the people, those entrepreneurs and risk takers who are going to create the real, lasting, productive jobs that are needed by young people so they won't be 6 months later right back where they started.
Well, I have a concrete plan that have proven to work. I know how to get it done because it's proven, with a proven track record. And so, Tory, it's not just the small businesses and about the property tax reduction, because it's not just about new businesses. You're talking about existing business also. Your entire platform is really full of wish lists that have not been costed out. The trees you want to spend millions of dollars, you haven't costed out.
And yours has government programs that will be here today and gone tomorrow.
We're on to another subject. This is also from Twitter. This is from Karen Leslie Hall to both of you. So I guess John goes first on this one. What will you do to promote green living and sustainability, and what are your views on climate change, and how will you reduce emission, or how will you inspire emission reductions?
Well, I'll give you but one element of my plan, which is something that I think is very important and follows along something we did very successfully in Civic Action on a voluntary basis, something Civic Action led. We got all the landlords and tenants, the major ones, to get together and decide, and they'd never even wanted to meet in a room together, but they sat in a room and decided they would adopt a common target of reducing energy consumption by 10%. And of course, it's been very successful. They're at about 9 now after 3 or 4 years. And I said, well, look, with the City of Toronto, why can't we do something similar to that? The City of Toronto spends $250 million a year on energy consumption of one kind or another. And of course, that contributes to emissions. And so I have proposed to make a modest investment to allow for real-time energy monitoring, which then allows you to take the step of deciding how you're going to reduce it by a percentage over time, because you have to monitor it first. We don't even know exactly how that energy is being used and where. And so you'd use every building and get that done. That will make a significant difference, in addition to things like building transit, of course, which will get cars off the road and thus reduce emissions as well.
Ms. Chow?
It's a very, very important question because climate change is real. We need to reduce greenhouse gas emission, of course, by investing in public transit. We also need to plant at least 1 million trees in the next 4 years because trees are really the lungs of the city. And I will do that by asking the polluters that are putting in phosphate and nitrogen into the water. When we clean it up as a city, we want them to pay the true cost, which will generate $3.5 million. We will do a complete bike grid. That would be across the city, 200 kilometers of cycling lanes and paths. That's important because that would get people coming out of their cars and feel safer when they're riding their bikes. Also, we have to continue the tower renewal program, which means that these high-rises that sometimes are using electric heat or that is not well insulated, let us retrofit them so they could burn less, and then the tenants would pay less.
Okay, the floor is now open.
Well, I'd like to ask you, I mean, you talked about bicycles, and they're going to be a mode of transportation that people will, are in increasing numbers using to get around the city. But you've, again, used one of these big numbers, as you've done before when you were in municipal politics, to say we're going to create hundreds of kilometers of bike lanes, when in fact what happened most of the time is that it either didn't get done, or it was just a line painted on the street and declared a bike lane, as opposed to my plan, which says sensible, safe, separated bike lanes in sensible places and make some real progress on that, whereas that progress since your time on City Council has not been made.
Well,
it hasn't been made.
My work at City Council, I'm very proud of it. With 14 years of experience, we built quite a large number of bike lanes. But unlike some of the councillors that endorse you, Mr. Tory, they are busy pulling out bike lanes. In fact, in the last 4 years, under Mr. Ford and a team of councillors, they eliminated bike lanes, which is going backwards. We see other cities, whether it's Vancouver, New York, they are putting in a whole network network of bike lanes, and my bike plan is endorsed by the advocates, the Cycle Toronto, because it's a grid.
But
you would name how many kilometers, and if you of bike lanes we would build.
Okay, but
if you don't put a target, you would never
Olivia,
get there.
I think people are tired of these promises that name these jumbo numbers and then find, like you did, you signed onto a bike plan maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and if you look at how much of it's been done, the answer is very little. And in fact, the bike lanes that are being tried out on Richmond and Adelaide, it took a councillor that you'd be ordinarily critical of to actually get it done, not you. You were there and it didn't get done for years. So I'm just saying, let's talk about sensible, separated, safe bike lanes, not painting lines on the road and declaring them bike lanes, because that hasn't worked. It's not safe and it's not real.
It has worked for many, many people, and yes, of course, we need separate bike lanes, but Mr. Tory, the problem with your tree plan, for example, is millions of dollars. We're talking about environment, millions of dollars. We won't say where you're going to find the money.
Thanks, Ms. Chow.
How's that responsible?
On to a new topic that is kind of topical, I suppose. This is from the floor here. Good question from the Canadian Club audience. In the 2 weeks remaining in this election and in the 4 years that follow as mayor, how will you restore civility and respect for the political process and elected officials? And I think it's Ms. Chow's first.
Civility. I've been a city councillor for quite a few years, and I've worked whether with Mel Lastman, and others, have always been able to come together to get things done. The key thing is to have a vision that can be shared by other councillors. And then we go and ask the other city councillors what kind of things they would like to see accomplished. And then you work together, because basically people believe in making this city a better place. I have the experience to accomplish many things like after-school programs for children. I did that at City Hall as a councillor. I know I can get it done as a mayor. I've done it when I was a member of Parliament for 8 years, and even though other people are heckling, I didn't do that, because I think it's important that we share ideas rather than insult each other. In this campaign, you notice I have not called other people names.
Thanks, Ms. Chow. Mr. Tory?
Well, I think it comes down, Rob, to a question of leadership, and I think in the end, you're never going to make City Hall or Parliament or the legislature a place where it's utterly silent at all times, though one might strive for that. But I think if the leadership that is there in the personage of the mayor demonstrates respect, demonstrates a willingness to listen, does put forward that vision. I mean, I've said earlier on when David Soknacki was with us debating that, there really isn't much difference between the different leadership positions one can occupy. No matter how much authority you have or don't have in a given job, your job is to set a direction or a vision. Your job is to build a team to execute on that, and then to work with the team. And that means, respecting their ideas, letting them help you shape those ideas, and then get results for people. And I think in the end, what's been missing over there's been a huge environment of division that has gone on day in and day out, and it has sapped the city's strength that is well noted in many different places to actually get results on transit, on jobs, on keeping taxes as low as they can be, and other things like that. So I think it starts and ends with respect and listening.
Thanks, Mr. Tory. Now we'll have 2 minutes of civil debate.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I put out a platform with ideas and things that we can do together for each other. And all of them are costed out. I think it's important to have a platform to say this is how much it will cost to get things done and where the money is coming from. I know all of you that have businesses that you would, if you're spending some money, you would need to go to your shareholder and the board to say that this is where the money would be coming from. But here's the key difference. I have mapped out a child care plan, affordable housing plan, and after-school programs. Mr. Tory doesn't have a child care or after-school activities, or at least that he's not putting a penny in it or a nickel in it. So when you have a program that have a wish list that have nothing costed out. The problem is you would then go to the city councillors, go into the budget committee, and say to them, let's implement this together. And they'll say,
right,
how are you going to fund it, Mr.
Well, let's talk
Tory?
about my platform.
Right?
You've raised this.
And it's important to be, if you're going to come together, you need to tell people how are you going to fund it.
Well, I've chosen to do it differently. I don't have a glossy book, and that's fine. Every campaign makes their own decision. I do have a website, johntory.ca, where people can go and find all the pages and pages and pages of detail of things I'm going to do. And I've made no secret of the fact that the centerpiece of my campaign, and you'll dispute how we say we're paying for it, and you'll dispute the merits of the program itself, but I've made no mistake about saying that the centerpiece of my campaign, because I believe it's urgent for people in Toronto, is Smart Track, because it is going to provide the greatest amount of relief in the shortest period of time, 7 years as opposed to the 17 or somewhere around that number we'll be waiting with your plan. And I've said how I'm going to pay for it. You don't like the way I say I'm going to pay for it. You have criticism of that. Fair game. But I've set it out. You can't have it both ways and say you don't like the way I'm paying for it and then claim I haven't provided as to how I'm going to do it.
What about the music program? Music office. Music office is $500,000. You made that promise. Where is that $500,000 going to come from?
Thanks, Ms. Chow.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Tory.
Yeah.
On to another subject that's come from the floor. Another good question that kind of feeds in with some of the things that we've been talking about today. What measurable process and protocols will you employ in order to hold yourselves accountable to your plans? You both have well-publicized plans.
My first this time?
And John, you go.
Yeah, I believe this is fundamentally important. I think one of the major shortcomings of all governments, but including the city government, is a lack of accountability. Where does accountability come from elsewhere? I mean, if it's doing your homework at home when you're a kid, you've got to take your homework to your parents or the teacher and show them. When it's in government, we should be having more frequent report cards. One of the failings of the system is that we have elections every 4 years, so that when there are things that happen or don't happen as they're supposed to, that accountability can bury something far into the past. I've talked, for example, in storm preparedness. There's one example about an annual report card. I think we should put far more information on the internet, open. I think everything should be pretty much there except sensitive personnel matters, because transparency is the best friend of not only the voters, but it's the best friend of the politicians and the public servants as well. It's less likely to see behavior engaged in that we wouldn't approve of. But I think it comes back to accountability and back to the fact that we have to have report cards on just about everything, on goals you set and things you do or don't do,
Mr.
so
Tory,
that you're
thank
held
you.
to account.
Ms. Chow?
Well, having goals and timetable is critically important. If you make a vague promise and not say precisely how many affordable housing units, then how are you going to be held accountable? That's why throughout this entire campaign, I've been very clear. I said I would make sure that 3,000 children would get better, high-quality, affordable childcare. You can measure it. I can tell you precisely how much it'll cost. And you can then hold me accountable and say that, wait a second, Ms. Chow, have you done it yet after a year or 2 years? But if you set no goals, no timetables, no idea as to how much you're going to pay for it and where the money is coming from, how is that possibly can one be accountable? Yes, report card is important, but also having an action plan to measure whether that what you said you would do will actually get done. I have a long record of getting things done.
Well, and I would simply point out, because the impression's being left here that my platform has none of these goals in it. Let me just mention jobs. I mentioned doubling the number of companies in 1 year that participate in the city's most important youth program, which will double or substantially increase the number of positions. Smart Track, I've said it will be done in 7 years. Tree planting, we'll double the budget over a number of years and bring the tree canopy back to the level it was at, I think, in 2012. Energy consumption. The idea is to save 10% through an investment that is specified. You criticized it the other day. It was $22 million. Storm preparation, a storm preparedness report card every year. It'll come out. So I don't think it's fair or honest with the voters to say I don't have these measurements in my platform.
Well, you wouldn't say how many affordable housing units you built. And in terms of the music office, that's $500,000 per year. So 4 years, that's what? $2 million. And what about the trees? That's millions of dollars. If you add up all of that, millions of dollars, where's the money coming from?
But let's talk for a minute.
What about the downtown subway relief line? That's $9 billion. How are you building it?
You haven't spelled out in the case of that one of your biggest commitments.
I am very clear.
No, you haven't spelled out what the route is. You haven't spelled out when it's going to happen exactly. You haven't spelled out the cost.
I've been clear. I said that I would use the percent point increase of people that are purchasing a house by $2 million.
To pay for a subway?
No. To
definitely a lot of big house sales going on.
To pay the interest rate of when you do capital budget.
What
Mr.
about
Tory,
the rest of it?
You surely understand that you need to do a capital project. You're borrowing. It's a debt, right? So you use that to pay the borrowing cost.
And the money has to be paid
back. And the rest of it. What the borrowing costs, and also I've said that we would pay through the property tax increase around rate of inflation, and I'm not doing the subway, the Scarborough subway that you're proceeding. So tell us how much all your policy add up. How much would it cost? How are you going to find the money for it?
Thanks, Ms.
And
Chow.
what services would you cut?
Thank you, Ms. Chow.
Come clean and tell us.
No services will be cut.
We now go on another question. Now another area. This is also from the floor, and I'm intrigued by this one personally, so I'm going to ask it. Will you ask the province to change the City of Toronto Act to strengthen the office of mayor and weaken the powers of council? And also, we had a Twitter question that's similar, saying, "Do you support reducing the size of council?" So I'll editorialize and put both of them together.
Who's first?
I think I am.
Ms. Chow is.
No, I won't, because I do not believe that we need to decrease the size of City Council. It was, before amalgamation, over 100 City Councillors. Because of amalgamation, 2 levels of government coming together, it's now 44, and I don't believe we need to reduce it further. The other question was that would it more power? I think the key area that we need to negotiate with both the provincial and the federal government is not about structure. It's about the funding formula, because it doesn't make sense for the city not to receive any operating budget for TDC, given that our public transit system carry people from other regions, from the GTA coming to Toronto. Our highways, whether it's DVP or Garner, carry people that are traveling from outside Toronto. It needs to be regional funding, and that's what the province needs to do.
Thanks, Ms. Chow.
With us.
Mr. Tory?
Well, first of all, there will be taking place, Rob, an automatic review of the City of Toronto Act in 2016, and I would expect that the Mayor, hopefully myself, and the members of City Council obviously will take an active role in reviewing that. I'm running for this office on the basis of the powers and the situation as it is, because you have no choice but to do that. I think it is going to be important over time, whether it's done by way of leadership or whether it's done by way of other changes that might take place, that we try and encourage more of a citywide perspective to be taken by individual members of council, so that we can build Toronto up, one Toronto, and end all of this business of the suburbs versus downtown and so on, which to me is counterproductive. But I think that's going to require a commitment to end the kind of division that an absent friend might well have been making reference to in terms of the record of the past 4 years. But I will say this: I would much rather put my efforts into securing what I call 10-year contracts with the other levels of government, not just the province, but the feds as well, to fund consistently and continuously transit, housing, and other infrastructure. I think that is almost more important than what the provisions of a bill would say.
Thanks, Mr. Tory. The floor is now open.
Yeah, I think it's important that we say to the provincial government that they have downloaded all these Ontario housing, whether it's Jane and Finch or Regent Park, that used to belong and was managed by the Ontario government. They downloaded all these housing to the City of Toronto without paying for maintenance of it or having any reserve fund to consistently repair these housing. So it's very, very important that we go to the provincial government to say that, look, we can't do this alone. There's a huge deficit on how to fix the Toronto Community Housing Corporation, and we need a plan to work together with them. And Tory, your plan for using the city dollars, though that money has already been committed, it's already been flowing, and you are promising them that you will flow money faster, but that money has already been spent.
Well, it has. They've just begun to spend it. And ladies
it's
and gentlemen,
typically, year that they've
I didn't
been
interrupt
spending
you,
it.
Please. Typically, what goes on with government, the money was allocated and they got off to an incredibly slow start in actually investing it in the repairs of Toronto community housing. And if you saw those housing units, you would be embarrassed and you would be demanding that your government did something. And what I've said is, as much as they've begun to invest it, I want to invest more in a prudent way, making sure that you're not wasting it, but make sure you invest it in making those repairs as quickly as possible and not hold back that funding. And I will just go on to say that I think that when it comes to these relationships with the other governments, it's a theme I've been talking about throughout my campaign. Because Ms. Chow and I are both right in saying we cannot get things done on transit and housing and so on without the support of those governments, meaningful, significant improvements. And then the question becomes, who is going to be better able to forge those productive relationships with those two governments, Conservative in Ottawa,
John,
Liberal in Queen's Park, to get that money and get on with getting things done.
You need to understand the municipal budget. I know you have no experience, but it's been the second year. Okay, $128 million is already spent to repair the TCHC building.
Thanks, Ms. Chow.
And it's not new money. You can't spend the money that has already been committed.
Folks, thanks very much. And so concludes the longer portion. Now we have the 30-second rapid-fire questions. So we have a time for a few. Most of them are from the audience or from Twitter. And we will start with Mr. Tory on the first one, I think. This question says, John and Olivia, would you consider cooperating for the good of Toronto? I'm going to combine that with, if you are not elected mayor, would you accept a position in the winner's City Hall?
Is it my first? I'm quite willing to do anything to try and make this city better. I mean, I want to be the mayor after the 27th of October, and I'll go a step further. You asked me the question, I'll tell you in reverse. I would be delighted if I'm the winner and Olivia Chow is not, to find a way to involve her in the continuing administration of this city, because I believe she cares deeply about the city as I do. And so the answer to both ends of that question is yes.
Ms. Chow?
Likewise, but I plan to win.
So do I.
Okay, this is another rapid-fire one. This first one goes to Ms. Chow. How have your platforms evolved through your careers? This is from the floor. Are your current priorities the same as they were 5 years ago? If not, where have they changed most? You have 30 seconds.
My priorities have not changed. My priorities have always been to make sure that people get a better head start in life, especially children, that no one's left behind, that everyone's count, especially those that are living in areas that maybe 50% of them living in poverty. Those are neighborhoods that really seriously need some investment, and that is one of my top priority, and it has not changed.
Mr. Tory?
I regret to say, Rob, that there are a couple of elements from when I ran for mayor 11 years ago that are still there, and maybe that's a statement in and of itself. One for sure, traffic and transportation. I mean, it was a big issue. I ran on 5 things 11 years ago: traffic and transit, homelessness, crime, garbage, and city finances. I think city finances are still a concern. Garbage is looming, but kind of lurking. It needs to be addressed over the long term, but it's not as much of a crisis. Crime, fortunately, has come down, but I think we have to keep an eye on the root causes. And homelessness, maybe transposed into an issue of availability and affordability of housing, is still an issue. But
thanks, Mr.
That's how my platform has changed.
Next question goes to you first. What should Toronto be like in 2065, 50 years or so from now, and what will you do to get us there?
Well, I think we have to keep working at making sure it's a city where I think what keeps us so high on the list isn't, so much our built form. It certainly isn't our climate. It isn't our traffic and transportation. It is, I think, the way we live together and the values that we espouse as Torontonians that say that we're going to take care of everybody, that we're going to offer that hand up to people who need it to make sure they can take full part in the great opportunity that is Toronto. But I think, other than that, I think we want the city to be a humane city in terms of its built form, the availability of transportation, parks, and recreation, but most importantly, that those values have been maintained.
Thanks, Mr. Tory. Ms. Chow?
Our city will be the best city in the world, not number 4, not behind Vancouver. Okay? We're number 4 right now. By hopefully in 4 years, 5 years, or if it's 50 years, we will be the best, because already we have people from all over the globe living in this city, living in harmony. We have low crime rates. We just need to make sure that other neighborhoods that are really right now struggling are not left behind. And we need to build better public transit, good infrastructure, then we can be the best city in the world.
Thanks, Ms. Chow. This is the last rapid-fire question, and then we'll have closing statements. So it goes to Mr. Tory.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, wait, no, it's you.
No, it's Ms. Chow.
Okay, yes, right. Okay, sure.
I'm my mistake. Will you sell Toronto Hydro? It's a nice, easy one.
No, I would not, because Toronto Hydro generates funds each year to the City of Toronto. If we sell Toronto Hydro, how we're going to have that. Also, it's important to maintain the hydro being a city services, even though it's arm's length right now with a board of directors. And what we do need to do is to make sure that they are more prepared for climate change, for severe storms, because we know we will have more severe storms. So we can do better at Toronto Hydro, but I won't sell it.
Mr. Tory?
I'm not a great privatizer, and I think that what we would do have to do with Toronto Hydro is to make sure it is well run, and I think there's work to be done there. I think we have to make sure it is prepared for eventualities like storms, and I think they've done not a bad job, but they got a whole report full of recommendations on things you have to make sure they actually do so that when the next storm or event comes, that they do better. And finally, I think we have to make sure we keep their feet to the fire and making the investments that need to be made to make sure we have an electricity grid that is able to supply the needs of a rapidly growing city. Because I think in some respects, as we have done with transit and other things, we're inclined to kind of turn our eyes the other way and pretend those things don't need to be done.
Thanks, Mr. Tory. Now you each have 2 minutes of closing remarks, and by coin toss, Ms. Chow goes first.
Thank you. Today you heard two different visions of our city. Mr. Tory has one vision. He'll cut vital services because he hasn't cost out a lot of his financial, his plans. And he has a wish list, but no plan to help people in poor neighborhoods to get ahead. He has no plan to have a transit system that can benefit people immediately. And he has no plan to create jobs for young people. And I believe he doesn't think that government can do much to support families. But I know he's wrong. The mayor's job is to be a leader, to inspire, to pull people together and get them working together with each other for each other. Mr. Ford and Mr. Tory want our city to be a reflection of themselves. I say our mayor needs to be a reflection of this city. Our mayor needs to reflect the hopes and dreams of all of us and inspire us to do more together than we could ever do for ourselves working alone. Our mayor needs to represent all our people, no matter what's their income, where they came from, and what neighborhood they live in. So I believe we have two choices in this election. We could choose to cut or to build, to divide or to bring people together. I know where I stand. I choose to bring all the people together to build a better city, a city where everyone counts. And I hope you join with me. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you, Rob, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As I read through the vital signs report that came out recently, I was struck by how balanced that report was and emphasized a theme I've been talking about through my campaign, that the job of the mayor and the council is to take a good city, a city that's really good, and to make it great. It tells us, the vital signs report, where we have work to do. For example, on isolation and jobs, because a lot of people are not having access to a job because they are isolated in our city. Traffic and transportation, housing, the engagement of citizens. I have made SmartTrack the centerpiece of my campaign because I believe traffic and transportation to be an area which is principally a government responsibility to address. And so the questions become, how fast can we get the relief to the greatest number of people on a cost-effective basis? And my answer is SmartTrack in 7 years. And then the other question becomes, of course, who will best be able to form the partnerships we will need in order to actually get that done and move a bold project ahead for this city. Traffic, to me, is just a matter of government finally showing, city government finally showing some common sense and some sensitivity and some determination to make things better. On jobs, I honestly believe the challenge is different. Government has a role to play, but if there was that magic wand I referred to earlier that you could just wave and say unemployment is going to be done away with, then I guess somebody would have waved it by now. We all know it's much harder work than that. We have to make the city a more attractive place for people who are here to invest more and get more investment from around the world, and that includes addressing issues of transportation, to make sure we have those real, lasting, productive jobs for young people, to make sure that everybody is included. We have work to do. We have to manage the city's finances carefully. We have to use the proceeds of greater efficiency to make sure we enhance those programs that give people a hand up. And to me, this starts with a period of calm, sensible, rational, competent, accountable leadership in the mayor's office. This job is not a stepping stone for me. I'm not looking at it as a way of moving me to be a career politician. It is an opportunity to take Toronto, which is good, and to make it great, and I look forward to having that opportunity. Thank you very much.
And so concludes the 42nd debate of this mayoral race. Don't forget to vote. The election is on October 27th. And thank you to Olivia Chow and to John Tory for participating. And Jennifer Sloan, I believe, has some closing remarks. Thank you.
Well, firstly, I'd like to thank you, Robert, for moderating this discussion. Mayoral candidates, on behalf of the Canadian Club of Toronto, I want to thank you for choosing our podium to discuss these critical issues that you clearly are both very passionate about and to outline your positions on the key challenges that face our city. I also want to express our gratitude to you for your commitment to public service. We know what a sacrifice you have to make to be there, and it is truly appreciated when leaders like yourselves are prepared to commit to that public service. I also want to express the fact that I think we are all very, very aware of the fact that Toronto needs new leadership. A leader who can unite all of the different forces necessary to move our city forward to achieving its true potential. Now, it's been a pretty grueling campaign. Torontonians appreciate the drive that you've brought to this campaign, and we know you will bring to your leadership. In so many debates, you've addressed all these critical issues, whether it's crime, whether it's transit, whether it's the economy, and everything in between. Well, the race, as we've heard, is almost over. And so as you make your way to the finish line, firstly, please accept our thanks for joining us today and our best wishes to you both for the outcome you desire. We at the Canadian Club of Toronto will be extending an invitation to the winner post-October 27th. So with that in mind, let me simply say thank you for being with us and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to echo Adam's message and thank Rob, Olivia, and John for participating in today's debate. Before I adjourn today's meeting, I'd like to draw your attention to the event survey card on each of your tables. The Canadian Club is always looking for ways to improve your experience, so please take a moment and help us by sharing your thoughts and comments, including whether you like our new shortened luncheon format. We would very much appreciate the feedback. This concludes our program for today. Please visit the Canadian Club website to download a webcast and a podcast. To learn more about the club and our upcoming events, please visit us at www.canadianclub.org. Thank you for being an attentive, engaged audience this afternoon. Our luncheon is now adjourned.